may be to the glory of thy blessed name, the maintenance of true religion and justice, the safety, honor, and happiness of the king, the public weal, peace and tranquility of the island, and the uniting and knitting together of the hearts of all persons and estates within the same, in true Christian love and charity, one towards another, through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
This Honourable House now resumes its sitting. Call of the roll.
Mrs. Holness? Mr. Bartlett? Mr. Holness? Dr. Clark? Dr. Chang? Mr. Shaw? Mr. Samuda? Ms. Grange? Mrs. Williams? Mrs. Malawu Fort? Dr. Tufton? Mr. McKenzie? Mr. Chuck? Mr. Vaz? Mr. Warmington? Mr. Charles? Mr. Green? Mr. Morgan? Mr. Hutchinson? Mr. Terry Long? Miss Smith? Dr. Dunn? Mrs. Cuthbert Flynn? Mr. Main? Mr. Davis? No, all of them not here. Mr. Witter? Mr. Brown? Dr. Brown-Burke? Dr. Charles? Mr. Chin? Mr. Clark? Mr. Cousins? Miss Crawford? Miss Daly? Miss Davis? Mr. Golding? Mr. Graham? Dr. Guy? Miss Hamilton? Miss Hannah? Mr. Henriquez? Mr. Henry? Mr. Hilton? Mr. Jackson? Mr. Lawrence? Miss Lee? Mr. Miller? Mr. Montague? Miss Morrison? Mrs. Nita Garvey? Mr. Paulwell? Mr. Phillips? Dr. Phillips? Mr. Robertson? Mr. Robinson? Mr. Siblist? Mr. Slowly? Mrs. Vaz? Dr. Wheatley? Mr. Williams? Mr. Wilson? Mr. Wright? Mr. Golding? Miss Davis?
Members, I want to welcome you back to the sitting of the House, and also welcome to those persons joining us in the gallery, those who are joining us online by various social media platforms. We were hosted after the opening of Parliament by the Prime Minister and his wife, and the traffic detained us, hence we are a little late. And I'm asking, I crave the indulgence both of members of Parliament and those joining us online if we suspend for 5 minutes to await the last set of budgetary-related documents to be laid on the table this afternoon. There are 2 or 3 not here from the printing office at this time. House Leader, crave your indulgence for us to suspend for 5 minutes to allow us to get the books.
Madam Speaker, we certainly will enable an opportunity for the documents to arrive so that the business of the House can continue in the manner prescribed. But I want to use the opportunity, Madam Speaker, to join you in welcoming members back to this Honourable House, and particularly for the start of the 2023-24 Parliamentary year. I want in the process, Madam Speaker, to commend the Clerk of the House and her team for the excellent execution of the ceremonials this morning. I think the pomp and pageantry have returned in full, and we are recovered fully now from the effects of COVID. It was a great look, it was a great feel, and I think all members of the House are proud that the parliamentary tradition of the ceremonial opening of Parliament was upheld with honour and dignity today. Madam Speaker, your performance last year, of course, is exemplary, and indeed the very fact that this Honourable House is able to establish a tradition now of promptness to start exactly at 2 o'clock for every sitting last year was indeed a tribute to the discipline that is returning to this Honourable House, and for which, Madam Speaker, I think you can take some credit as the leader of this chamber. Certainly also today's Prime Minister knows that it was his direction that caused this discipline to obtain. And so we really are following your Prime Minister. In fact, his insistence, indeed, at another place where we go on Monday, his insistence is even stronger, because he actually affixed a fine for those who breach the punctuality rule. So perhaps we might want to think about that for this House, Madam Speaker, who knows. But just to say that today's a start which breached somewhat that wonderful tradition is understandable, and we want the public to appreciate that that wasn't because of negligence on the part of any, but is also part of the tradition of the ceremonial opening, that afterwards our most honourable Prime Minister would treat us to lunch, something that happens once a year, so we all look forward to it. And I think that the repast was so sumptuous and the gastronomy was so delightful that it enabled us to spend a little extra time, notwithstanding the fact that we got good help from our security forces in getting through the traffic to get here. So, Madam Speaker, I think that we are looking forward to a very strong and vigorous year. We are anticipating the ebullience and, of course, the rigor, most importantly, that is attendant to the level of participation and the quality of the output from members during this session. It's going to be a long but hopefully productive period, and the leader of opposition business and I will have to work a little closer to make sure that the business of the House gets through with seamlessness. And the rigor, of course, is not without the bantering and the cut and thrust. But, of course, the discipline must obtain, and the respect for the honor of this great House must also be maintained. So I look forward to a very strong and effective period as we continue together to execute on behalf of the people of Jamaica the business of legislation. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Madam Speaker, I don't wish to add too much to what the leader of government business has already said. Of course, I join with him in commending our parliamentary staff and of course the Prime Minister for hosting us again this year as we start this new parliamentary year. I noticed the Prime Minister is in the House. I was wondering if there was something else apart from the tabling of the documents that we are awaiting. So I can take it that we only have one item of business to cover today. Very well, very well. Well, Madam Speaker, I have no objection to the 5-minute pause.
So Madam Speaker, in the context of your earlier comment, and I suspect that the documents are, yes, I think that we could then go through the order paper. No, not yet. Okay, Madam Speaker, then I would invite you to adjourn the House for 5 minutes, or to suspend the House for 5 minutes in order to enable the documents to arrive. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, House Leader. And before I suspend the House, I always say it, and I want to impress upon us all as members, particularly those on my right, that whenever we come early, I'm acting on the strict instructions of the Prime Minister, who has asked that the discipline and the promptness and the way we behave in Parliament, we lift the standards. And as you notice, the Deputy Leader and the Deputy House Leader is here. We thank the Prime Minister at lunch for his gesture of friendship in giving us all ladies roses. And now the Deputy House Leader is going to present, the Speaker is going to present the gentlemen and indeed the Prime Minister with roses, because everybody knows that in this House we are all equal. We all have a part to play, the women as well as our men folk. And I too want to use the opportunity to thank the clerk and her staff for their support of all that I do here as a Speaker and for the smooth running of the Parliament. All our men got her. You don't get men. Rose. They're taking pictures. Members, the question before the House is that we do suspend, and I'm not going to say for 5 minutes, we suspend until the documents are here, because I gather that the members of the Ministry of Finance are in dialogue and some of the documents are presently, they're all here, so there's no need for us to suspend. Okay, so the Minister of Finance has advised that the documents are all here. So the question before us as members is that the House be suspended until the documents have been distributed to us all. Those in favor? Aye. Those against? The ayes have it. The House is now suspended.
Every Jamaican has the right to know what is happening in Parliament, to know when new laws are being passed, and to give their opinions on legislation before either house.
Every Jamaican has the right to see their representatives in action, making laws, holding the executive to account, representing the people, working for the benefit of all Jamaicans.
It is your right to observe first-hand meetings of the Senate, meetings of the House of Representatives, and the meetings of parliamentary committees. You may also take a tour of your parliament.
To find out more about the Houses of Parliament, please call 876-922-0200, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, or visit our website at www.japarliament.gov.jm.
Meet 6 young people doing great things to tackle poverty, inequality, exclusion, and crisis in Jamaica. They're part of teams leading game-changing solutions and valued partners in UNDP's Ready, Set, Great Youth Development Showcase 2020 and 2021. These are their stories.
I'm Janine Shepherd, and I'm the founder, board co-chair, and president of Youth for Excellence.
This is the space that we be using at the far end of the field, so it doesn't disrupt the play from the children.
For the last 7.5 years, whether it be in Jamaica or the other 7 Caribbean territories that we operate in, the main issue that has affected young people is poverty. With Youth for Excellence, we have been trying to tap into a holistic framework to support children, because then if you look at poverty, it extends to all the other facets of life. They're not able to learn in the classroom simply because they didn't eat food that morning, or they didn't have their eyes checked, or they're in poor health for some other reason. Or simply put, their mom and dad, or a single parent, cannot afford to provide for them. And that's because they didn't have the foundation that they needed in order to gain access to certain career opportunities. Youth for Excellence has been working on addressing these challenges by taking a holistic wraparound support. We operate by supporting young children, but also their families. As it relates to young children, we provide them with access to healthcare, nutrition, educational content, and resources. But then as it relates to their families, we're working to provide them with opportunities for career and personal development. So that may entail skills training and job placement. As of right now, we are working on a project with the Rosetown Foundation, the Rural Agricultural Development Authority, and the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Our main mandate is education, but for right now, we are focused on agriculture. Why agriculture? Well, simply put, the food import bill pre-pandemic for Jamaica sat at $900 million US, and the Jamaican population is 2.9 million people. When you look at our sister island of Barbados, $700 million for roughly 200,000 people. It is clear that we face a major issue with food security. According to the FAO's 2021 report, of the 768 million people who face hunger, 418 million came from the Asian continent, 282 million from the African continent, and 60 million from the Caribbean and Latin America. despite the latter only accounting for 8.38% of the world's population. So then for us, education is not just the regular sciences and math and, doctor, lawyer, engineer, but we need to be looking at how we can revitalize other industries like agriculture, which is why we are working with these amazing organizations to put together the Farm the Future project for 2023. Based on the Ready, Set, Great action items and my own calls to action, I would say that from the 2021 report, I would more focus on points 4 and 12 of the Ready, Set, Great action plan, simply because they focus on funding for youth advocacy and young people who are trying to get into entrepreneurship. As it stands, there is limited support for young people who are trying to start up social enterprises. The funding is simply non-existent. When we compare and contrast to our counterparts in the US, for example, there is a centralized grant system, grants.gov, sam.gov, where you can go online and see what funding is available from the federal government. I would like to see a similar structure available on the Jamaican landscape and throughout the Caribbean landscape, so that people who have great ideas for social entrepreneurship can see how their ideas can be supported in the best way possible. Lastly, there needs to be a change in the infrastructure that exists to support nonprofits. In Jamaica, you have to go through the company's office, charity's office, tax office, just to operate legally and carry out your work as an NGO and incentivize businesses via the tax incentives. As it stands, a lot of young people find it hard to come up with the money for registration and maintenance of company status. Not to mention the fees are killer and crippling for people who are genuinely doing the volunteer work. That means that we really need to assess as a country how these bureaucratic processes are serving to hinder us versus uplift the people that these NGOs are trying to help.
Never drive under the influence. It's essential to avoid operating a vehicle if you have been drinking. Refrain from taking certain types of prescription or substances that may otherwise make you impaired. This is a road safety tip by the Public Broadcasting Corporation of Jamaica.
I lost my husband to gun violence. My child will never know her father. Jamaica, please stop the senseless killings.
Reggae Month is February. February is Reggae Month. Go catch the rhythm on Reggae Month TV, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. daily in February. Catch the mega reggae concerts, interesting reggae documentaries and symposia, reggae conversations with pioneers of the music, and lots more. Reggae Month TV all days in February, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. on PBCJ and the Ministry of Culture social media pages. Get all the details real time on the Reggae Jamaica mobile app and come catch the rhythm this Reggae Month.
Tell me something. How much time you ever hear the government announce a project and wonder why they must spend millions on this and not on that? Well, if you think there's nothing you can do about how your money is spent, think again. Jamaica's budget is more than just numbers. It reveals our biggest problems and goals, our plans to fix them, and what to prioritize. We can even call it a promise book of what will be done to improve our lives. Now, let's talk about the 4 stages of the budget cycle so we can understand how it works and get involved. Stage 1, planning and review. The Ministry of Finance sends out a budget call to every ministry, which outlines the priorities and constraints to guide how those ministries prepare their budget. After ministries submit their drafts, the Finance Ministry reviews, compiles, and sends them to Cabinet for review and approval. Stage 2, Parliamentary debate and approval. The Finance Minister tables all budget documents in the House of Representatives. The Standing Finance Committee, which is all 63 MPs, sits to examine the budget documents, and each minister presents their budget and answers concerns the committee has. The committee's report is then tabled in the House, followed by the estimated expenditure, which is tabled as legislation called the Appropriations Bill. That's right, the budget of Jamaica is law. The budget debate formally opens. We have presentations from the Minister of Finance, the Prime Minister, Opposition Leader, and the Shadow Finance Minister. After their presentations, our MPs vote for or against approval. Like all legislation, it goes to the Senate for their approval and then to the Governor General for his royal assent. No later than March 31st, end of the financial year. Stage 3, implementation. The new financial year begins and approved budgets are sent to ministries. Collecting taxes, borrowing loans, and receiving grants begin. And so does the spending. Stage 4, budget oversight. Now, this is where citizens don't need permission to get involved. Throughout the year, operations and spending are assessed by internal auditors and the Auditor General's department that makes sure public entities are compliant with laws and that their financial reports are accurate. All Auditor General reports are submitted to our Parliament's Public Accounts Committee for review and cross-examination of public officials. The Ministry of Finance, Integrity Commission, and MOCA also monitor government spending to guard against poor financial management and corruption. It is our job to review these reports, check the findings in the newspaper, and look up if breaches are fixed at jampja.org. If not, ask your MP what he or she has done to ensure public officials are held to account. No more 9-day wonders. So, did the government follow through on their spending and investment promises last year? What promises will next year's budget have? How will they affect you, and how can you ensure that you get what is promised? For access to the national budget, check out JAMP's easy digital version and contact info for your MP at jampja.org. Then link your MP and see what progress is being made throughout the entire budget cycle. Support JAMP. Let's do our job to make Jamaica land we love, Jamaica land we own, and Jamaica land we run well. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
The National Census is an opportunity to help develop your community and create a brighter future for your family. The information gathered from the census is used to make important decisions about where to put facilities like clinics, stores, and new roads. So be seen and be counted for your family's future. Census Day is September 12th. Look out for the national census takers in your community and let them know you count.
Jamaica, a one life we have. Don't let this be your story. Look out for yourself and others. Too many Jamaicans are dying on our roads. So, slow down. It's not worth the rush. Arrive alive. A message from the Office of the Prime Minister.
Nah, click on your link for my liquor brother pre that slot bro, we no need that. And the next thing them type a song they are listening online, what kind of thing that some big man pose up on them profile and a put chat to a small child. Watch yourself on social media when you a post boxes, no do nothing too wild. What if your little brother said a post ya? What if your bro dead in a crime video ya? What if your little sister fe take a one pic and it a put up everywhere like it's a poster? Before me share the post, the pic, I ask myself what if I nah comment, I nah go click B. Before me ask what if I nah comment, I nah go click B. Before me ask what if so before you share the post, the link, just ask yourself what if yeah. When you're there online, make it a new day at the rhyme. Keep up with the time. Broadcasting Commissioner remind you.
Here is a special parenting message brought to you by the National Family Planning Board, 5 Sylvan Avenue, Kingston 5. If you want your children to improve, let them overhear the nice things you say about them to others. That was a special parenting message brought to you by the National Family Planning Board, 5 Sylvan Avenue, Kingston 5.
You know who have the gun them. Stop going like you don't notice. You notice.
Do you wish there were a way your community could get funding to improve a school, health center, sports program, and more? There is! It's the Constituency Development Fund. Here are a few things you probably didn't know about the CDF and how you can make it work better for you. The CDF policy promotes citizen participation in community development and protection of taxpayers' funds. It outlines that MPs are to meet with citizens at least once every 2 years to agree on the projects needed. You know, it used to be once a year? We should really go back to that. Projects developed without community consultation are not to be approved by the bipartisan CDF Parliamentary Committee. There are 26 government agencies that implement projects, usually for a small fee. Funds are provided directly from the Office of the Prime Minister to the implementing agency, not through the Member of Parliament. The CDF unit monitors project costs and implementation, so if you have questions about how the CDF are run in your community, contact them. To ensure no one project or community gets all the funds, there are 6 project categories with spending limits for each. There must be no less than 5 and no more than 20 projects each year. To learn more, visit jampja.org to view your MP's CDF info and tell them how this fund has impacted you. If you don't see your MP's CDF reports, then put them under little pressure, man. Call, tweet, email. Ask them when they'll submit it and when is the next CDF meeting. Change is possible. It's already happening. What we need is you. A message from the Jamaica Accountability Meter Portal, funded by the European Union and the Inter-American Development Bank in partnership with the Private Sector Organization of Jamaica.
If ever there was a time to take care of your mental health, it is now.
Now, when your physical health so clearly impacts your emotional health.
Now, when we need to talk and listen to each other.
Now, when supporting each other means survival.
Now, in a time of COVID-19.
Speak up.
Speak now.
Beat COVID-19.
Call 888-NEW-LIFE, 639-5433.
Jamaica and its workforce are advancing quickly. Life-changing opportunities are arising. You need training and support. We are the Renewed Heart NSTA Trust, committed to providing new and emerging skills training and opportunities. Come to Heart. We'll help you claim your place in the workforce of the future.
Reggae Month is February. February is Reggae Month. Go catch the rhythm on Reggae Month TV, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. daily in February. Catch the mega reggae concerts, interesting reggae documentaries and symposia, reggae conversations with pioneers of the music, and lots more. Reggae Month TV all days in February, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. on PBCJ and the Ministry of Culture social media pages. Get all the details real time on the Reggae Jamaica mobile app and come catch the rhythm this Reggae Month.
Speeding kills. Obey the speed limit. A message from the Road Safety Unit in the Ministry of Transport and Mining.
Every Jamaican has the right to know what is happening in Parliament, to know when new laws are being passed, and to give their opinions on legislation before either house.
Every Jamaican has the right to see their representatives in action, making laws, holding the executive to account, representing the people, working for the benefit of all Jamaicans.
It is your right to observe first-hand meetings of the Senate, meetings of the House of Representatives, and the meetings of parliamentary committees. You may also take a tour of your parliament.
To find out more about the Houses of Parliament, please call 876-922-0200, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, or visit our website at www.japarliament.gov.jm.
Educators, listen up. Do you need help learning how to save, budget, manage your debt, investing? Does it feel like the little you have can go so far and no more? The Ministry of Education and Youth is partnering with Profit Jumpstarter, a boutique investment education organization, and the Jamaica Teaching Council to guide you or educators on a course towards financial literacy. Look out for a series of workshops in the coming months to help you get on the path to financial freedom, because understanding money is essential for growing it. Each one teaches one, right? Let us continue to make Jamaica the preferred place to live, work, raise families, and do business.
Statements by ministers. Announcements.
Laid on the table of the House today are the following: the Jamaica Gazette Supplement, Proclamations, Rules and Regulations in respect of 1. 2922A, Volume 1, 45, number 331A, number 445A. The Insurance Actuaries, Life Insurance Companies Amendment Regulations 2022 under the Insurance Act. And 2, 2928A, Volume 145, number 332A of number 446A, the Insurance, this is a repeat, the Insurance Actuary General, the Insurance Actuary General Insurance Companies Amendment Regulations 2022 under the Insurance Act. And 3, 2935, Volume 145, number 334, number 448, the Insurance Amendment Regulations 2022 under the Insurance Act. And all 3 documents are dated Saturday, December 31, 2022. Ministry Paper number 27 of 2023, Annual Report and Audited Financial Statements of the Management Institute for National Development, MIND, for the financial year 2021-2022. The Jamaica Estimates of Expenditure for the 2023-2024 for the financial year ending March 31, 2024. Government of Jamaica Fiscal Policy Paper for the financial year 2023-2024. Medium-term Debt Management Strategy for the financial years 2023-2024 to 2026-2027. Jamaica 2023-2024 Public Sector Consolidated Estimates of Expenditure for the financial year ending the 31st of March 2024. Tax Expenditure Statement 2023, Jamaica Public Bodies Estimates of Revenue and Expenditure for the financial year ending March 31, 2024. And Jamaica Revenue Estimates 2023-2024 for the financial year ending 31st of March 2024. Excuse me, there's another one, another two. Special report of investigation conducted into the circumstances which led to the award and implementation of a contract in the amount of $45,851,105 to Ramins Cleaning and Trucking Limited by the St. Anne Municipal Corporation in relation to its Ocherius COVID-19 sanitization and cleaning project, and a report of investigation conducted into circumstances surrounding the award of Government of Jamaica contracts to Westcon Construction Limited during the period 2006 to 2009.
Bills brought from the Senate, petitions, papers, reports from committees, notices of motions given orally.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move, be it resolved that the estimates of expenditure 2023-2024 for the financial year March 31st, 2024, the Jamaica Public Bodies estimates of revenue and expenditure for the year ending March 2024, the Government of Jamaica fiscal policy paper for the financial year 2023-2024, the medium-term debt management strategy for the financial year 2023-24 to the financial year 2026-27, the revenue estimates 2023-24 for the financial year ending March 31st, 2024, the tax expenditure statement 2023, and the public sector consolidated estimates of expenditure for the financial year ending March 31st, 2024, which were laid on the table of the House on this 14th day of February 2023, be referred to the Standing Finance Committee of the whole House of Representatives, consisting of all the members of the House, for consideration and report. Madam Speaker, I further beg to give notice that at a later stage today, I'll move for a suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take this motion.
Questions and answers to questions. Motions that may be made at the commencement of public business requiring notice. Motions relating to sittings of the House. Motions for leave to introduce bills. Presentation of bills without leave of the House first obtained. Public business.
Madam Speaker, the matter of public business today will, as is customary, be confined to the motion moved earlier by the Minister of Finance and the Public Service with regards to the estimates of expenditure for 23-24 and the public body estimates of revenue and expenditure for the same period. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Finance.
Madam Speaker, Madam Speaker, I now move for the suspension of the standing orders to enable me to take the motion, notice of which I gave earlier.
Members, the question before the House is that there is a suspension of the standing orders to enable the Minister to take the motion, notice of which he gave earlier. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. Minister.
Madam Speaker, it's customary. It's a one-page editorial on what has been tabled here today, which is the budgetary documents for the upcoming the upcoming fiscal year 23. For the upcoming financial year 23-24. In line, Madam Speaker, with the requirements of the Financial Administration and Audit Act, I am tabling today for the fiscal year 2023-2024 budgetary documents which provide an outline of the government's plan for the country over the medium term. Building on the achievements of fiscal year 2022-2023, Madam Speaker, the government plans to spend $1 trillion in fiscal year 2023-2024. This is Jamaica's first $1 trillion budget. This amount, Madam Speaker, is allocated across the main expenditure categories as $665.7 billion, or 22.5% of GDP, to non-debt recurrent expenditure, $75.3 billion, or 2.5% of GDP, to capital expenditure, and $280.6 billion, or 9.5% of GDP, to debt service. Included in the non-debt recurrent expenditure are allocations to implement the second year of the 3-year public sector compensation restructure and allocations to operationalize the Independent Fiscal Commission, which has been captured as head 10,000 in the expenditure estimates. The allocation for capital expenditure takes into account the existing capacity to implement capital programs and focuses on the priority areas to enhance development. Debt service at 9.5% of GDP, which reflects both amortization, i.e. principal repayments, and interest payments, reflect action taken over prior years to reduce the debt burden, as that 9.5% of GDP was significantly higher only a decade ago, with interest payments this year of $155 billion being fully financed by revenue. The overall public debt is estimated to end the current fiscal year as at March 31st, 2023, at 79.7% of GDP. This is expected to decline further to 74.2% of GDP by fiscal year 2023-24. Madam Speaker, this is a projection. It depends on parameters and variables that are not totally in the control of any single person. But should it be achieved, Madam Speaker, that is the 74.2% at the end of this fiscal year, it would mark the first time since the nationalization of the financial sector crisis through FinSac in the latter half of the 1990s that debt has entered the domain of pre-FinSac levels. Central government revenue and grant inflows are estimated at $897.6 billion, which alongside the above-the-line expenditure of $887.7 billion will generate the required fiscal balance surplus of $9.9 billion, or 0.3% of GDP, consistent with fiscal rules. The corresponding primary balance required for debt service and to generate the targeted fiscal balance is approximately $165 billion, or 5.6% of GDP. It should be noted, Madam Speaker, that the revenue estimates tabled today reflect just Leader of Opposition, the revenue estimates tabled today reflect the original budget tabled in March of 2022. All right. Just want to make sure that there's no excuse this time. Revenues. So although we have indicated revisions to fiscal year 2022-23 revenue estimates at each tabling of the 3 supplementary expenditure estimates. Now, Madam Speaker, the largest single item of expenditure is the amount of $338 billion for wages and salaries. This includes provisions for the second year of implementation of the public sector compensation restructuring. This level of expenditure, Madam Speaker, is approximately $100 billion higher than the wages and salaries for fiscal year 2021-2022 after adjusting for allowances previously captured in programs. I.e., 21-22 is the year prior to the effective date of the restructuring, which began April 1st, 2022. Madam Speaker, it should be abundantly evident that based on what I've just described, that there is no room in the upcoming fiscal year, which is 23-24, for salary payments related to 2022-23 to be made. The amount of $338 billion only contains 2023-24 salaries. Which one? No, there's no room in the upcoming fiscal year for 22-23 salaries. The amount of $338 billion only contains 2023-24 salaries, which are $100 billion more than 21-22. So we are therefore, Madam Speaker, working feverishly, making ourselves available to complete negotiations on the public sector restructuring in the remaining weeks of this year to facilitate fiscal year 2022-23 salaries in fiscal year 2022-23. Any of these amounts not paid this fiscal year will have to be paid over a number of years beginning in the fiscal year that follows the upcoming one. Madam Speaker, even if the first time is a no, we are not deterred. That does not mean that we cannot get to a yes. There are only a few weeks left. We are available morning, noon, and night, weekday and weekend. Let's talk. Let's get it done. Madam Speaker, I want to make it clear, though, that this also has an impact on those in the political directorate. Councillors, parliamentarians, ministers, etc. The people have to come before us. People have to come before us. We will not be in a position to make compensation adjustments until we adjust for the major groups. This may not be convenient, but it's simply a matter of principle. Not you. With respect to the self-financing public bodies, the fiscal year 2023-24 program budgets overall revenue of $581 billion and an overall balance surplus of $29.2 billion, or 1% of GDP. The capital expenditure program for public bodies is budgeted at $75.9 billion, or 2.6% of GDP, with NHT, Clarendon Aluminum Production, and NWC accounting for 68% of the capital expenditure. Madam Speaker, details on the allocations on the 2023-24 budget will be provided during my budget presentation on March 7th, 2023.
Madam Speaker, I just want to remind the House that the fiscal position that the country enjoys today is a result of sacrifices that would have been made going back 10 years. And starting in 2012, where we went on a path of fiscal discipline. We started in this administration, we passed the baton on to the current administration, and they have continued with that fiscal discipline. And I think it's important to note that over that 10-year period, we have achieved what we have today. Madam Speaker, we continue to be concerned about how the public sector compensation review is being implemented. There are too many agencies where there's a level of restiveness, where workers have concerns not just about what they're going to get, but they have concerns about the process. They don't understand how they are being placed into a particular category in the new system from the old. In many cases, they still have concerns that when their net salary is computed, they're going to be worse off than before. So there's an issue both of quantum and also process. And there are many questions, legitimate questions, that many of these workers have that unfortunately have not been satisfactorily answered. We had the sick out at RGD. I know you have made a counteroffer to Customs and TAJ. There are the doctors, the contract workers still remain restive. Teachers and policemen are still, from my understanding, not close to concluding. So it requires, in my view, very specific consultation with the workers. In some cases, they don't believe the unions have appropriately represented the concerns that they have. In some of the public bodies, they don't believe the management has either aggressively or accurately represented the concerns that they have had to the ministry. And so you have many, many gaps that exist that has led to this restiveness. So I've heard the minister, the commitment to being available morning, noon, and night. We hope that we can conclude it within the next 6 weeks to the end of March 31st. But I believe there has to be an adjustment in the process of discussion with the workers. Thank you.
So, Madam Speaker, just a comment based on that where we have reached today in terms of our fiscal achievements is not automatic. It's not a matter that you can just say anything or do anything and these are the results that occur. Jamaica experienced an unprecedented economic shock where we lost 10% of GDP, our debt went up to 110%, and it took deliberate policy action to get where we are today. And policy action for which we did not always enjoy support.
Exactly. Or were advised otherwise. Remember, advised otherwise.
Had we followed, we wouldn't be here. Let me that be clear. So, with respect, Madam Speaker, to the restructuring, as I've said before, this is not a salary increase where the same, you just have a percentage increase that applies to everybody, the same level. It is a completely new compensation system, and as a result, it, by definition, if you're trying to get it done for 110,000 employees across 140 public bodies and 40 bargaining units, that's over 200 separate groups that you have to engage in, and you're trying to get that done in 12 months, by definition, it will result in persons entertaining the public domain in conversation. That's a natural part of this kind of process. But that should not deter us, nor should it lead us to develop narratives that are not completely accurate. A part of what is happening, Madam Speaker, is that there are two, in many instances, there are multiple sides to each conversation, but only one side of the conversation is ventilated in the public domain. There is an issue among certain entities who have enjoyed a premium over the civil service, who believe, and there's an argument on their side, that premium, given where we are in our development, that premium should continue to exist. But there's an argument on the civil service side that says, for some people at least, that no, we have come to a point where that premium should no longer exist. We have only heard sort of one voice in the public domain. The Ministry of Finance and the Public Service stands in the middle and has to resolve these kinds of tensions, which are natural in our development path. And as we seek to implement restructuring of a compensation and a brand new compensation system, something that we have never done in our independent history. So the nature of what we are experiencing, given the timelines that we have set, is a natural part and should not be misconstrued, misinterpreted, or should not deter or lead to any deterrence of will. As I mentioned, another thing that is happening, a point that was made, is that an exercise such as this that is very technical in nature, one of the properties has been the engagement with members by their representatives. So the Ministry of Finance talks with the representatives, and we have spent hours, days, weeks, and months with, and I gave you 140 plus 40, that's nearly 200, that's 180 representatives, whether they be management or unions, across the public system. And there may be a need, Madam Speaker, much as it is not easily welcomed by representatives, for us to engage directly given the time that we have left. But we only do that with the consent of representatives. And that would allow for technical questions to be answered and for accuracy in the conveyance of information. But as I said, Madam Speaker, this is a reform that is long overdue and is absolutely necessary. We are demonstrating the courage and the fortitude to get it done, and we will make ourselves available morning, noon, and night, weekday and weekend, in the remaining weeks of the year, to complete as much as is practically possible of these discussions for this very complex, far-reaching, consequential, and absolutely necessary reform. Thank you, Madam Speaker. I move that the motion, Madam Speaker, be adopted.
Members, the question before the House is that the motion brought by the Minister be approved. Those in favour? Those against? The ayes have it. Minister, the motion is approved.
Madam Speaker, it is not intended to do any further business substantially for the day. However, on the motion of adjournment, I beg leave for the Minister of Gender and Entertainment and Culture and Sport to make a statement with regards to a matter concerning this Honourable House. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. On the motion for adjournment, I wish to remind Parliament, and for those who are not aware, to indicate that on February 21st, we will be making history in Jamaica by having the first sitting of the first all-female parliament with young women between the ages of 18 and 25. All 63 constituencies will be represented, and I want to thank my colleagues for responding to the letters that I've written to them, asking them to recommend a young person to sit in Parliament. These young women will be performing duties similar to the duties that are performed in this House. All constituencies will be represented. The Prime Minister, in fact, is represented in the presence of a young lady who was recommended by a member from the opposition. And I don't know, Prime Minister, if I should say that Parliamentary conducted the workshops, and they had a process through which they selected who represented what constituency, who performed what duties as ministers of state, as the Speaker, Deputy Speaker, the Clerk, the Marshal, the orderlies. They are going to be performing all the duties that are involved in the sitting of Parliament. They are very energetic young women, and they have in fact said to me at the end of the workshop that they plan to make it a lively sitting, but also setting an example for us, the older members of Parliament, to follow. So I'm really inviting and encouraging members in this House to please attend and give those young women support. They are future leaders. Each of us in this chamber is a role model to each and every one of them. We selected them to be us in this sitting. And I think it is important that we encourage them. Some are university students, some are community leaders, some are young professionals, and they all are very focused on what they want to achieve in the future and what they want to see Jamaica become. And so I am really, making a special appeal that you make a special effort to attend. I want to thank Parliamentary and UN Women and the Spotlight Initiative for giving us the support that we have been able to make these things happen. The deliverables, we have been meeting those deliverables. And some of the women are also drawn from NGOs, from non-government organizations. I think you need to come to see who is representing who. And they are actually studying us and trying to make us see ourselves. Unfortunately, there are, I shouldn't say unfortunately, it's good to feel, to feel what it feels like to be on both sides of the House. And so, for example, the West Kingston recommended representative is now sitting on the opposition side. But I want to tell you that these youngsters are very focused, very, very focused. So you need to come and hear what they have to say. Right? So please, parliamentarians, come and give them your support. We will even have sign one of the young persons doing the sign language and, taking the notes in Hansard and so on. Because we want them to know what it feels like sitting in here and what it feels like representing the people of Jamaica. And so, please, I ask you to make yourselves available. Thank you. Thank you.
Madam Speaker, I beg to move that this Honourable House be adjourned until Tuesday, the 21st of February at 2 p.m. at the George William Gordon House. May it please you, Madam Speaker.
Members, the question before the House is that we do adjourn until next Tuesday, the 21st, 2023. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it. This House is now adjourned.
Independent meaning do more thing, you know. Independent meaning do more thing.
Every Jamaican has the right to know what is happening in Parliament, to know when new laws are being passed, and to give their opinions on legislation before either house.
Every Jamaican has the right to see their representatives in action, making laws, holding the executive to account, representing the people, working for the benefit of all Jamaicans.
It is your right to observe first-hand meetings of the Senate, meetings of the House of Representatives, and the meetings of parliamentary committees. You may also take a tour of your parliament.
To find out more about the Houses of Parliament, please call 876-922-0200, follow us on Instagram and Facebook, or visit our website at www.japarliament.gov.jm.
We are now open and ready to take our women in who are being abused. The facility will accept clients even while we continue to receive donations and build out our programs to help women to rebuild their lives and get back on their feet. I use this opportunity, Madam Speaker, to read out the 24-hour hotline numbers for women who need the shelter. 876-553-0372 or 876-929-2997. The other two properties are now in early reconstruction and or refurbishing stages and will be transformed quickly into safe spaces for women.
The National Identification System, NIDS, has endured a long storied journey from inception to realization. It began in the 1970s with the case for a national registration system with each person from birth issued with a unique number. By the 1990s, the Electoral Advisory Committee, EAC, made a recommendation for the establishment of a body to implement a national registration system, and as such, Cabinet approved the establishment of a national registration unit in the Ministry of Health in 1993, leading to the tabling of a national registration bill in 1995, which was later presented to Parliament in the year 2000. In July 2011, approval was given for the National Registration Unit to be transferred from the Ministry of Health to the Office of the Prime Minister. Then, in September 2011, the GOJ received a US $670,000 grant from the Inter-American Development Bank to commence the preparatory work required for the implementation of NIDS. The NEDS project was officially launched at the Jamaica House on September 27, 2011. By December of that same year, Cabinet approved the development of a NEDS policy. This was followed by the signing of a Memorandum of Understanding between eGov Jamaica Limited and the Government of Jamaica to provide technical support in the management of the ICT consultancy required to design the NEDS architecture. In November 2016, the NEDS White Paper was tabled in Parliament, and by June 2017, Prime Minister Andrew Holness opened the debate on the National Identification and Registration Bill in Parliament, which was eventually passed in November 2017 by the Houses of Parliament. A Technical and Security Committee was established by the Office of the Prime Minister to design and develop the requirements for a new electronic and digital identification system. Also in that same year, the Office of the Prime Minister initiated an international competitive bidding process to identify a consortium of international and local experts to supply the National Identification System solution. That process lasted 2 years and concluded in 2019 when a contract was awarded to the PBS consortium made up of Entrust Data Card, PBS Jamaica, Group of Vision and Thales Group to supply the National Identification System solution. In February 2018, the government of Jamaica signed a loan agreement with the IDB for $68 million for the NEDS and other projects. However, the act would hit a snag in 2019 when the Supreme Court ruled that the National Identification and Registration Act of 2017 was null and void and of no legal effect. Committed to realizing the vision of the NEDS, the government recalibrated its approach with the designing of a new NEDS policy, which led to the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, tabling a new National Identification and Registration Act 2020 in December 2020, which made provisions for a voluntary NEDS.
I table a bill shortly entitled the National Identification and Registration Act 2020.
Committed to an inclusive effort, a joint select committee comprising both political parties to review the new NEDS bill was formed. The first sitting of the committee started on January 5, 2021, and various groups, organizations, and individuals were allowed to make submissions to the committee. On Tuesday, July 6, 2021, Honorable Delroy Chuck laid on the table of the House of Representatives the report of the Joint Select Committee.
Madam Speaker, I beg to lay on the table of the House a copy of the report of the Joint Select Committee on its deliberations on a bill shortly entitled the National Identification and Registration Act 2020.
The House of Representatives on Tuesday, July 20th, approved the report of the Joint Select Committee.
The question before the House is that the report be now approved. Those in favor? Those against? The ayes have it.
The legislation made provisions for a voluntary and secure national identification system for Jamaica, and a bill entitled the National Identification and Registration Act 2021 was tabled.
Madam Speaker, I beg to give notice that at the next meeting of the House, I will move to introduce and have read a first time a bill shortly entitled the National Identification and Registration Act 2021.
Later that year, on September 21, 2021, the House of Representatives began debating on the NEDS, which was eventually passed in the House of Representatives on October 13, 2021, and by the Senate on November 19, 2021.
I am honored to rise once more today, this time to open the debate on the National Identification and Registration Act 2021.
So for the most part, the opposition is supportive of the NEDS bill.
A bill entitled An Act to Provide for a National Identification and Registration Authority for a National Identification System and for Connected Matters read a third time and passed.
NIDS was now back on track, and by January 4th, 2022, Prime Minister the Most Honorable Andrew Holness toured the NIDS Card Production Centre in Kingston. This was followed up with the contract signing between Fujitsu Limited and the Government of Jamaica on May 6, 2022 to facilitate the digitization of records processed at the RGD. No sooner Jamaicans were introduced to the design of the National ID card in the House of Representatives on May 24, 2022. The government on June 3, 2022 signed a Memorandum of Understanding with deposit-taking institutions to participate in the pilot of the National Identification System, NIDS. Today, the government of Jamaica is proud to launch the technical pilot for the National Identification System NIDS, a simple, safe and secure way to verify one's identity. One ID, many opportunities.
February is Reggae Month. Go catch the rhythm on Reggae Month TV, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. daily in February. Catch the mega reggae concerts, interesting reggae documentaries and symposia, reggae conversations with pioneers of the music, and lots more. Reggae Month TV all days in February, 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. on PBCJ and the Ministry of Culture social media pages. Get all the details real time on the Reggae Jamaica mobile app and come catch the rhythm this Reggae Month.
Get involved to fight climate change. Come make we engage to fight climate change. Get involved. Too much carbon dioxide a release a contribute to climate change. Severe weather and strong hurricanes. Out the season rainfall and the place turn river like jokes. And it make the temperature hotter. We have to use up the sun, the wind and rivers to get cheaper and better energy. Plant more trees, preserve the forest, practice proper disposal of garbage. European Union and Jamaica are partnering for a sustainable future.
Watch yourself online, that's what my crew say. Make it a new day. A reminder by the Broadcasting Commission. We the BCJ. What if it was your friend in the mix? What if it was your sis in the pics? What if you want a terrorist watch list? What if? Suppose that go on. What you gonna do? Don't like, don't comment, don't click. Report it, block it, don't make it stick. Don't trust everybody on the internet. Use it to step up your intellect. So online you have to be safe too. Don't believe the rumors or the fake news. Don't go everywhere they try to take you. Protect the kids or they find a way to. What if it was your friend in the mix? What if it was your sis in the pics? What if you want a terrorist watch list? What if? Suppose that go on. What if? Wait up, please.
G-Force! 5 teenage champions. G-Force, guardians of space, fighting for good over evil, fighting to defend planet Earth from deadly enemies from space. Ace Goodhart, leader of the team, strong, vigilant, fearless as a hawk, guarding the 4 young agents under his command. Dirk Daring, second in command, a crack marksman with the eye of an eagle and nerves of steel. Agatha June flies like a dove, strikes like a falcon, a match for the strongest on the team. Hoodow, Hootie to his friends, wisecracking navigator who flies the amazing rocket ship Phoenix and laughs at danger. Pee-wee, small and bold as a merlin, the tiniest hawk of them all. These are the adventures of G-Force, 5 secret agents trained to fly like birds. G-Force, guardians of space.
You say radar has picked up a UFO in the shape of a prehistoric monster? Ha! Great Scott! It's here!